The shrill ring of gunfire echoed through the night, bullets whizzing dangerously close as Olivia desperately maneuvered the car, weaving through the darkened streets. The Porsche on their tail was relentless, unloading a barrage of shots that seemed endless. "Chris, I don't know how long I can keep this up," Olivia shouted into her phone, her voice strained over the choir of gunfire and screeching tires. "Just hold on a bit longer, Olivia. We're almost there." Chris's voice crackled through the phone, a mixture of urgency and concern. Olivia gritted her teeth, trying to focus on the road ahead while simultaneously checking on Lulu. The venom from the mechanical bug was a ticking time bomb in Lulu's arm, slowly spreading its deadly toxins. "This is insane, Chris. I'm trying to drive, dodge bullets, and keep Lulu from succumbing to this poison." She glanced at Lulu, noting that the color had almost entirely drained from her face. Olivia had another idea. "The seatbelt," she said. "Wrap the seatbelt around your arm." Lulu's eyelids were flickering now, but she understood enough to follow Olivia's orders. She wrapped the seatbelt tightly around her arm, overlapping the strip of fabric from Olivia's shirt, and pulled it as tightly as she could. Olivia nodded, exhaling loudly. "That should slow the venom." "But we need help ASAP." Chris's voice was a beacon of hope amidst the chaos. "I'm almost there, Olivia. Just a few more minutes." Olivia winced, feeling the sting from the bullet graze on her cheek. She was running on adrenaline, her mind razor-sharp yet clouded with worry for both Lulu and Chris. Her hand returned to the gun, firing back at the Porsche with surprising accuracy, each shot a calculated risk, her ammo depleting with every pull of the trigger. The Porsche was persistent, but having watched Sven and now Lulu expertly navigate sticky situations, Olivia's driving skills were better than she even realized. She zigzagged through narrow alleys, trying to lose their pursuer, but they clung to her tail like a relentless shadow. As the last of her bullets clinked empty onto the car floor, Olivia felt a surge of panic. They were sitting ducks now, defenseless against the oncoming onslaught. But then, like a cavalry charge in an action movie, a convoy of vehicles burst onto the scene, surrounding Olivia and Lulu's car with a protective barrier. The Porsche, now outnumbered and outgunned, hesitated before making a swift retreat into the night. Relief washed over Olivia in an overwhelming wave. She let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding, her grip on the steering wheel loosening slightly. "Lulu, hold on," Olivia murmured, glancing at her injured companion. "Help is here." As Chris's fleet encircled them, Olivia's heart pounded with a mix of relief and lingering adrenaline. The danger had passed, but the night's events had left their mark. "Chris, we're safe," Olivia finally said into the phone, her voice a mix of exhaustion and relief. "But we need to get Lulu to the estate fast." The line was silent for a moment before Chris responded, his voice firm yet tinged with worry. "I'm here, Olivia. We'll take care of everything." Chris's eyes immediately searched for Olivia as he got out of his car. Sven, his expression tense, stood a few steps behind Chris as he surveyed the damage. As Olivia slowly got out of the car, her eyes locked with Chris's. A silent exchange of relief and concern passed between them. Without a word, Chris closed the distance and enveloped Olivia in a tight hug. For a brief moment, in the safety of his arms, Olivia allowed herself to feel protected, to take a breath away from the danger. Reluctantly pulling away, Olivia's gaze was drawn back to the car. "Chris, Lulu," she began, urgency lacing her voice. Chris followed her gaze, his hand instinctively reaching out to touch the graze on Olivia's cheek. "I can't believe you got hurt," he murmured, his touch gentle. Olivia winced slightly but quickly brushed off her own pain. "It's not about me right now," she insisted, her tone firm. Together, they moved to the passenger side of the car. Opening the door, they were confronted with the sight of Lulu, pale and visibly weak. The sight of Lulu in such a state hit Chris hard. "She looks awful," he whispered, worry creasing his brow. "It's venom witchcraft," Olivia said gravely. Without missing a beat, Chris turned to Sven. Make sure Morgana is ready to meet us at the door. We're going to need her help to save Lulu, he commanded. Sven nodded, already on his phone coordinating their arrival. Together, Chris and Olivia gently lifted Lulu from the car. Her body was limp, her breathing shallow. As they carried her to Chris's car, Olivia couldn't help but wonder if they were too late. Will Morgana be able to save her? Olivia whispered as they placed Lulu in the back seat. Chris looked at Olivia, his eyes reflecting the same fear. She's our best shot. Morgana knows more about these poisons than anyone. Olivia's mind was racing as she climbed into the car next to Lulu. As the car sped off towards the Jones estate, Olivia's thoughts were a whirlwind of worry. What if we can't save her? Olivia thought to herself. The air at the Jones estate was thick with urgency as Chris, Olivia, and Sven burst through the doors, carrying an ailing Lulu between them. Their voices echoed through the halls, calling out for Morgana in desperation. Morgana upstairs rolled her eyes at the sound of her name, assuming it was another mundane issue about Grandpa Shook. She took her time descending the staircase, her irritation visible. As she laid eyes on Lulu's limp form, her expression shifted from annoyance to shock. What in the world happened? She demanded, her gaze darting between Chris and Olivia. Olivia, her voice edged with panic, explained, She was bitten by a poisonous creature. Morgana's eyes narrowed as she inspected Lulu, her expert gaze recognizing the severity of the situation. This is one of the deadliest poisons I've seen, she muttered, more to herself than to the others. Chris and Olivia exchanged worried glances. Can you help her, Morgana? Olivia asked, her voice strained with concern. Morgana, sensing Olivia's desperation, took a moment, her mind racing with possibilities. How can I use this to my advantage? She thought, her gaze flickering between the group. Olivia, growing more frantic by the second, pressed, Morgana, please, we don't have time for games. Can you save her? Morgana's lips twisted into a sly smile. I might be able to help. For a price, she drawled, her eyes locking with Olivia's. I want an apology for you killing all my poison bugs. Olivia's eyes rolled in frustration, the absurdity of the demand striking her even in the midst of the crisis. At that moment, Lulu, weak and forlorn, whispered, I'm okay with dying. I've got nothing left to live for anyway, now that I'm no longer a servant for the Jones family. Olivia's heart clenched at Lulu's words. She couldn't accept that. No, Lulu, you're not dying on my watch, she declared firmly, turning back to Morgana. I'll make a deal with you. Save Lulu, and I'll tell you who killed your family. Morgana paused, the weight of Olivia's offer sinking in. Her expression was a mix of suspicion and reluctant intrigue. You know who killed them? Yes, Olivia affirmed, her gaze steady. But only if you save Lulu. Morgana's internal struggle was evident. She wanted revenge for her family more than anything. But could she trust Olivia? Is she telling the truth? Can she really know who it was? Morgana's thoughts whirled. Finally, with a begrudging nod, Morgana agreed. Fine, I'll save her. But you better not be lying about knowing who killed my family. Chris, who had been silent during the exchange, stepped forward. Thank you, Morgana. We owe you one. Morgana's gaze lingered on Olivia. Yes, you do. Now let's see what I can do for Lulu. In a dimly lit room within the sprawling Jones estate, Lulu lay on a bed, her body wrecked with the effects of the venomous assault. Her breaths were shallow and labored, each one a fight against the poison coursing through her veins. Morgana, with an air of intense concentration, moved around the room, her hands deftly preparing various concoctions. Bottles and vials clinked as she mixed and measured, her knowledge of toxins and antidotes guiding her every move. The array of ingredients before her, herbs, powders, and liquids of varying colors and consistencies, seemed to dance under her skilled manipulation. Lulu's face was pale, a stark contrast to the dark circles under her eyes. Sweat beaded on her forehead, and her occasional groans of discomfort filled the room. Morgana muttered to herself, analyzing the symptoms and effects of the poison. "This venom, it's more complex than anything I've seen," she murmured, her voice laced with a mix of admiration and fear for the lethal craftsmanship of the toxin. As the minutes ticked by, the battle against the venom continued. Olivia perched on the edge of the bathroom counter, a soft light illuminating the room, casting a serene glow over the scene. Chris stood before her, his hands gently cleaning the wound on her cheek with an unexpected tenderness. "You're surprisingly gentle," Olivia teased, a small smile tugging at her lips despite the sting of the wound. Chris met her gaze, his eyes softening. "I am only gentle with things, or rather people, I care deeply about," he replied, his voice low and sincere. A flutter of warmth spread through Olivia's chest, her heart skipping a beat at his words. For a moment, their eyes locked, sharing an unspoken understanding, a connection that went beyond words. Breaking the moment, Chris leaned in and planted a soft kiss on Olivia's forehead, a gesture so full of affection it made her breath hitch. He then returned his focus to dressing her wound, his touch careful and precise. "I really hope Lulu makes it," Olivia said after a moment, her thoughts turning to the ailing maid. "I can't believe she jumped in to save me." Chris paused, the mention of Lulu softening his expression further. "I know. I feel bad about firing her. She didn't deserve this," he admitted, his voice tinged with guilt. They both fell into a contemplative silence, each wrestling with their own sense of responsibility for Lulu's predicament. It was a heavy weight, one that neither of them had expected to bear. Finally, Chris helped Olivia down from the counter. Together, they walked out into the hallway, the quiet of the mansion enveloping them. As they rounded the corner, they saw Morgana stepping out of Lulu's room. "How is Lulu doing?" Olivia asked, her concern evident in her tone. Morgana's response was evasive, her expression guarded. "She's recovering," she said, her voice neutral, giving nothing away. Morgana attempted to move past Olivia and Chris, but the duo quickly cut her path, causing Morgana to huff out of irritation. Unsatisfied with the vague answer, Olivia blocked Morgana's path, her eyes searching Morgana's for more. "What does recovering mean exactly?" Morgana stared at Olivia defiantly. "It means she's in the process of healing. Recovering. Would you like me to define it for you, Olivia? Do they not teach that at your elite school?" Olivia fought the urge to snap back at Morgana, but instead, she responded with a calculated reminder. "Don't forget, Morgana. She needs to make it through this if you want to know what happened to your family." Morgana's impatience was clear as she tried to move past them again, only to be stopped by Olivia and Chris's persistent presence. Chris stepped forward, his protective instincts kicking in. "I want to see her," he said, moving towards Lulu's door. Morgana quickly positioned herself in front of the door, blocking his path. "She's not in a state to be seen right now," she insisted, her tone firm. The energy between Morgana, Olivia, and Chris was charged with unspoken questions and concerns, and as Morgana stood guard at the door, it was clear that whatever was happening with Lulu was more complicated than they had imagined. Olivia and Chris exchanged a glance, a silent conversation passing between them. Something didn't add up, and they both could feel it. Chris stood firmly, his gaze locked onto Morgana's evasive eyes. "Why can't we see Lulu?" he asked, his voice laced with concern and a hint of suspicion. The atmosphere in the corridor of the Jones family mansion was tense, each second ticking by with an intensity that was almost palpable. Morgana, her expression a mix of annoyance and secrecy, replied in her typically cryptic manner. "It's not wise to disturb her now," she said, her voice cool and detached. "The process, it's delicate." Olivia, who had been listening intently, stepped forward, her patience wearing thin. "We deserve to see her, Morgana. We brought her here for your help," she insisted, her tone demanding yet controlled. If you want my help, you should follow my orders, Morgana said without looking at Olivia. Olivia shot a look at Morgana, who was full of annoyance and distrust. Why won't you let us see her? Morgana's eyes flashed with a subtle menace. A small girl like you can't handle what's in there, she taunted, a twisted smile playing on her lips. Her words were a deliberate challenge, and Olivia knew it. Undeterred, Olivia squared her shoulders. I'm not just some small girl, Morgana, and I'm not afraid of what I might see, she retorted, her voice steady and strong. Chris watched the exchange, his instincts telling him to intervene, but he held back, knowing Olivia could handle herself. Morgana leaned in closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. I'm warning you, Olivia. What's behind this door? It's not for the faint of heart. Without a moment's hesitation, Olivia brushed past Morgana, her determination clear in her stride. I'm not faint of heart, she declared, pushing the door open and stepping into the room. The moment Olivia stepped into the room, a foul, suffocating odor assaulted her senses. She instinctively frowned, her nose wrinkled in disgust at the pungent smell that permeated the air. Chris had wanted to come inside too, but Olivia told him to wait outside. She knew that Lulu would hate for Chris to see her in a weakened, helpless state. It was one favor Olivia could do for the poor girl. Olivia tried to hide her repulsion, but it was impossible. She wanted nothing more than to escape this nauseating atmosphere. But the sight of Morgana, smug and completely unfazed, rooted her to the spot. The floor was littered with discarded cotton balls, each one stained with an unsettling blue-green hue of pus. It was a gruesome sight, one that made Olivia's stomach churn. Lulu lay on the bed, her breathing labored and weak. She looked utterly drained, a shadow of her usual self. If I didn't know any better, I think you'd just given birth, Olivia remarked, trying to lighten the mood, despite the heaviness that hung in the air. Lulu tried to respond to assure Olivia that she was fine, but her words were slurred, her voice barely more than a strained whisper. Nearby, Olivia's eyes fell upon a jar containing a bug, its exterior coated in a mixture of blue-green pus, blood, and what appeared to be muscle fibers from Lulu's body. The sight of it sent a jolt of terror through her, but she fought hard to conceal her fear. Morgana, ever observant, noticed Olivia's reaction and couldn't resist the opportunity to tease her. Scared, are we? She taunted, her tone dark and playful. Olivia, annoyed that Morgana had seen her fear, tried to regain control of the situation. What is that thing? And why does this room smell like a dumpster? She demanded, her voice steady despite the bile rising in her throat. Morgana's eyes lit up with pride as she began to explain the science behind the creation. These little bugs, she began, her excitement growing with each word, are a masterpiece of venomous witchcraft. This type of poison is rare. It accelerates and feeds off the human body, replicating itself in the process. It is a beautiful yet horrifying balance of life and death. As she moved closer to the bug in the jar, Morgana grew more excited. You see, each strain of venom is unique. Some paralyze, some cause hallucinations, and some, like the one used on Lulu, consume from within. It's an art form, really. The precision, the balance required. It's not just chemistry. It's a dance with nature. Olivia felt a chill run down her spine. Morgana's fascination was evident, her words painting a picture of both wonder and terror. Olivia shook her head in concern. This was terrifying. Morgana's excitement continued to grow as she continued. The venom evolves, making treatment nearly impossible. It's why this particular poison is so feared, so respected. The host becomes a living incubator for the deadliest creations. Such witchcraft is extinct, forbidden even. That's not true, Olivia interjected, her voice firm. I heard Venom God talking about it earlier. Morgana's expression shifted from pride to shock, then to something darker. Venom God? She repeated, her voice laced with disbelief. What do you mean? Who's being called that? Olivia hesitated for a moment before explaining. I saw a man talking with thorns. They called him Venom God. Morgana's demeanor changed rapidly, her shock turning to anger and confusion. That's my title, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Venom God is me. Who dares to take that name? Olivia, taken aback by Morgana's reaction, tried to piece together the information she had. I don't know much about him, just that he was talking with thorns. Morgana's anger boiled over. That's impossible, she snapped. No one else should have access to this kind of witchcraft. It's dangerous. It's powerful and it's mine. Her fist clenched at her sides, a clear sign of her growing fury. Olivia watched as Morgana's composure crumbled, replaced by a burning rage. It was clear that the revelation of another Venom God, a title Morgana held so dear, was more than just a threat to her ego. It was a challenge to her very identity. Olivia was puzzled and slightly alarmed as she watched Morgana's emotions shift between shock, anger, and disbelief. The room, with its nauseating smell and disturbing contents, seemed to fade into the background as Morgana's fury continued to grow. Knowing a Morgana full of rage wasn't a useful Morgana, Olivia's mind began to race as she tried to figure out ways to calm Morgana down. Morgana's frustration simmered just beneath the surface as she paced back and forth across the room, her mind clearly preoccupied with the revelation of another Venom God. Olivia watched her carefully, gauging her mood and trying to calculate her next move. Tell me everything about this Venom God, Morgana demanded, her voice sharp as she turned to Olivia. Who is he? What does he want? Olivia hesitated, weighing her words carefully. She knew too much information might set Morgana off on a dangerous path. I don't know much, Olivia began cautiously. I just overheard the name, that's all. Morgana's eyes narrowed suspiciously. You expect me to believe that? You, who seems to know a little bit about everything? Olivia tried to maintain her composure under Morgana's intense scrutiny. Honestly, Morgana, I don't know anything about him, just a name, nothing more. Morgana stopped pacing and leaned in close to Olivia, her gaze intense. You're hiding something from me, I can tell. You know more than you're letting on. I told you what I know. Should I just start making stuff up? But Morgana was relentless. No, I can feel it. You're keeping secrets. If you don't start talking, I might have to use my puppet poison on you. Let's see how well you keep secrets then. Olivia looked unimpressed, meeting Morgana's gaze with confidence. Puppet magic, really, Morgana? That's your big scare tactic? Morgana huffed, clearly annoyed that her intimidation tactic hadn't worked. You should be scared, Olivia. Venom witchcraft is not something to be taken lightly. Olivia crossed her arms, her curiosity piqued. What makes this witchcraft so dangerous? Morgana's lips twisted into a bitter smile. Venom witchcraft isn't just about making poisons. It's about understanding the deepest, darkest parts of nature. It's ancient, dangerous, and should only be wielded by those who respect its power. If someone can master ancient venom witchcraft, they're not just dangerous, they're pure evil. Olivia raised an eyebrow. As evil as you were when you poisoned the Shook family? That was different. Morgana snapped back. I was trying to help Pandora. Grandpa Shook is a monster and he was going to leave her with nothing. So you poisoned an entire family to even the odds? That's your idea of justice? Olivia challenged. Morgana's expression hardened. Sometimes you have to fight fire with fire. You wouldn't understand. I understand more than you think, Olivia retorted. But tell me, since when did you start caring about someone else's problems? Why would you risk so much for Pandora? Olivia continued walking closer to Morgana as she tried to understand what was motivating the young witch. You don't strike me as the caring type. Morgana's lips curled into a half smirk. Everyone has their reasons, Olivia. Let's just say Pandora and I have mutual interests. Olivia studied Morgana for a moment, trying to decipher her true intentions. Mutual interests, huh? Sounds more like you were using each other for your own gains. Morgana shrugged nonchalantly. Call it what you want. In this world, you either use or get used. I prefer to be the one in control. Olivia, her eyes narrowed, asked Morgana directly, Do you really think you're in control here, Morgana? Morgana replied with a smirk. Absolutely. I always am. Intrigued, Olivia tapped into Morgana's thoughts, delving into the depths of her mind. She heard Morgana thinking confidently that Pandora needed her, that Pandora was going to reveal who had annihilated her family. It was a thought laced with anticipation and a hint of vengeance. Olivia pulled back, her expression a mix of confusion and realization. She really doesn't know. Olivia thought to herself, a sense of pity creeping in. Morgana, sensing a shift in the atmosphere, looked at Olivia quizzically. What's with that look? Why were you questioning if I'm in control? Olivia probed further. Why are you really helping Pandora, Morgana? One more time for clarity. Morgana's patience thinned. I'm helping her because she's going to tell me who killed my family. That's all there is to it. Olivia hesitated, knowing the weight of what she was about to reveal. Morgana, there's something you should know. Morgana's eyes narrowed, a mix of curiosity and impatience. What do you mean? What should I know? Olivia opened her mouth to speak, the truth teetering on the tip of her tongue, but hesitated. Morgana's frustration grew palpable. Enough with the games, Olivia. Just tell me what you know. Olivia looked Morgana squarely in the eyes. You're being lied to, Morgana. Morgana scoffed dismissively. Lied to? I'm tired of your cryptic nonsense. Just say it already. Olivia took a deep breath, steeling herself. I only found Venom God because I followed Pandora's car to an abandoned warehouse. The woman who was driving Pandora's car, Thorns, had been advising her for months. I saw Thorns meeting with Venom God with my own eyes. Morgana's confident demeanor wavered, shock registering on her face. That can't be true. It just can't. Olivia leaned in, her tone insistent. Morgana, I'm telling you the truth. Pandora is working directly with him. Morgana shook her head, her voice tinged with frustration. It's impossible. Pandora needs me. She promised me answers about my family. Olivia pressed on, her words deliberate. That's exactly why she's using you. Your skills, your venom witchcraft. You're just a tool for her own agenda. There's something going on between her and Venom God, and you're probably at the center of it. Morgana struggled to process everything Olivia was saying. For the first time, she seemed like an overwhelmed teenage girl. That just can't be true. I'm not dumb. I would have seen through her, right? Olivia persisted, her voice firm. It's the truth. Pandora is working with Venom God, Morgana. You're being deceived. Morgana's gaze lingered on Olivia, the reality of her words slowly sinking in. Her mind raced with doubts and questions. Internally, Morgana grappled with the possibility of betrayal. Have I been a pawn all along? Was all my trust in Pandora misplaced? Have I been betrayed? Hearing Morgana's troubled thoughts, Olivia decided to hold up her end of the deal and reveal the truth about who murdered Morgana's family. I'll give you the answers Pandora refuses to, Olivia said. We made a deal, so here it is. The person who murdered your entire family is Venom God. Morgana's jaw dropped. Was Olivia telling the truth? I swear, Olivia said, staring at Morgana. You've been lied to. Morgana was bewildered about what Olivia just told her, trying to sort through who to trust. Morgana finally spoke. I don't believe you. Why should I trust something you tell me over anybody else? I already know you're manipulative and have a lot of secrets. Olivia sighed. Believe me or don't. She rolled her eyes. I think you know it's true, and I've already told you what I know. I know this isn't good news for you. It's certainly not what I imagine you want to hear. but I'm not going to twist your arm and make you accept the truth. Morgana shut her mouth tightly and glared at Olivia, angry. She did not respond. Olivia continued. Just forget it. I told you who your enemy is. We don't owe each other anything anymore. We're square. Bye-bye. Olivia waved a hand and turned to leave Morgana. No, Morgana blurted. You telling me without any proof or explanation is basically the same as not telling me. You didn't hold up your end of the deal. I mean, you already said you know who your enemy is. Olivia inspected her nails, honestly bored with Morgana's stubbornness and the back and forth. So who is it? Morgana's face darkened. The Venom God. So that's it then. You know what you need to know. Bullshit. Morgana spat, frustrated. The Venom God is me. You didn't even see the person you overheard. You don't know who they are. I could tell you who they were by hearing their voice. Olivia insisted. Well, I didn't hear it. You just said it was an old man, but besides that, it didn't sound like you knew for sure. I mean what I said. I'll recognize him if I see him again. Morgana's expression brightened, getting an idea. Then come with me. Why? Olivia shot back, putting her hands on her hips. You're the one who has a grudge against him and wants revenge. I'm not part of that. Why should I put myself in danger to help you? Morgana's nostrils flared as she exhaled, growing more frustrated. I just said you were manipulative. I don't know why I expected your help. I should know better. Morgana shook her head, then returned her gaze to Olivia. What do you plan on doing then? I don't know yet. I still have to think some more about the next move. Olivia turned away. Olivia thought internally to herself, Morgana is going to get herself killed if she goes to get revenge now. She's not strong enough and she's definitely not being smart enough. I need to hold off on being totally transparent with her for at least a little bit until she gets a bit more careful. Morgana, on the other hand, was nearly trembling with anxiety and anger. How dare this succubus withhold such important information from me? She thought internally. I hate her. I hate her. Olivia cleared her throat and calmly broke the silence. You should rest up first. Then take out the bug from Grandpa Shook. I don't need to rest, Morgana shouted, rolling up her sleeves. Old Man Shook's poison is easy to remove. I can just use the mother beetle to lure out the one that's inside him. I'll go do it now. As Morgana spoke, she put away the sickening bug that she had taken out from Lulu's arm. Then she found a stick of incense and a small wooden box and walked out. As Morgana left the room, she cast one last look back at Lulu, who was sleeping soundly. Well, I definitely want to see this, she said to the quiet room, following Morgana out. Morgana left the room with Olivia trailing behind her to find her brother, Dr. Brent, sitting with Chris. She jetted her chin in their direction. Hey, where's the old man from the Shook family? We put him in the far guest room, Brent answered, pointing to a closed door down the hallway. You sure you want to watch this? Morgana turned to Olivia and asked. I wouldn't want to make you go out of your way to do something you have no part in. Olivia rolled her eyes. Yes, Morgana, I want to see you remove the bug. Chris reached out and took Olivia's wrist gently. Olivia, how is Lulu? She fell asleep, Olivia replied. She did seem a little weak, but was otherwise doing as well as can be expected. She'll be okay. Do you know who did this to her? I do, Olivia said. She looked around, then spoke low to Chris, not wanting to incite another argument with Morgana. He's called the Venom God. I saw him meet with the person who's been giving Pandora all her orders, so I know who that is now. Morgana rolled her eyes, knowing she was being excluded, and began the walk toward the bedroom where Grandpa Shook was. You know him? Chris leaned forward toward Olivia, concerned. Who is he? She, Olivia said pointedly. Chris scoffed at himself and shook his head. Who is she? Her code name is Thorns. Her real name is... Olivia was interrupted by Morgana before she could finish her sentence. Hey, Morgana called back to her. Didn't you say you want to see this? Olivia sighed, annoyed, and patted Chris's arm. I have to hurry before she gets worse. I'll just tell you later. Okay. Chris nodded, resigned. Olivia turned to leave, but then suddenly whirled back to Chris severely. Also, you are not allowed to enter that room. She pointed back at the room she and Morgana had emerged from. Lulu is in there without any clothes on. Chris's mouth turned up in a small smirk. Got it. And I'm not jealous, but the next time I see you in a flirty embrace with another woman, I might be very jealous. Olivia stammered awkwardly. Got it. Chris smiled, finding this hilarious. That's very not jealous of you to say. Great, sounds like we're on the same page. Olivia called out as she turned to follow after Morgana, blushing. Chris slumped in an armchair and rested his head back, grinning. His smile grew broader and brighter. Is that the first time I've seen Olivia jealous? He thought internally to himself. And why do I like it so much? This feeling is actually quite nice. Olivia followed Morgana into the room. The curtains were drawn and Grandpa Shook's breathing was ragged on the bed. Olivia slid through the doorway and shut the door silently behind her, standing back along the wall to avoid interfering with whatever was about to happen. Morgana lit the stick of incense. She opened the small wooden box, inside which was a completely black beetle the size of a fingernail. It wasn't moving. This must be the mother beetle, Olivia thought to herself. Is it dead? She wondered internally, but did not speak this question aloud, hoping it would become apparent. Morgana wafted the incense into the small box, and the mother beetle started trembling before its legs began to work furiously. It walked to the side of the box, scrambling helplessly against the wall before it, then hurried to another side, finding little purchase there either. So not dead, Olivia thought to herself, just dormant. Olivia had never smelled incense like this and could not quite place the scent. It was sharp and almost reminiscent of pine or weeds, but there was also a note of something earthen. Olivia found it interesting that a beetle with such a sinister ability to control someone's mind and replace their thoughts with someone else's looked so unremarkable. There was no neon warning markings on certain bugs or reptiles. It was just black. Grandpa Shook slept on his back, his head propped up slightly with a pillow. Morgana knelt beside him and held the incense under his nose. Smoke wafted up around his nostrils, and as he breathed in, some of the smoke was sucked into his body. His eyes shot open. Olivia was startled, but hoped Morgana didn't notice her jerk at the sight. Morgana thought Olivia was cool and manipulative. She didn't want to undo that all now in an instant. Olivia watched Grandpa Shook intently. Morgana continued holding incense under his nose for him to breathe. His eyes stayed wide open, but his eyelids wavered slightly. Olivia watched his eyes so intently that she didn't notice until Morgana held her small box up under his nose that, oh no, Olivia was filled with disgust. What she thought were nose hairs extending from his far nostril were beetle legs, as a second black beetle, looking just like the one in the box, pulled itself out of Grandpa Shook's nose and dropped into the box with a tiny clack. Grandpa Shook's eyes fluttered closed. Morgana shut the lid on the box. She licked her fingers and pinched the incense, snuffing it out. She put the incense down, then used both hands to hold the little box and shake it hard. Olivia could not believe how bizarre this ritual already was. What was Morgana doing? Wasn't the beetle already out of Grandpa Shook? Wasn't this all over? Morgana shook the beetles hard for a few more seconds. She opened the box again, finding the dazed beetles on their backs, slowly trying to right themselves. Morgana noticed Olivia's sickened expression and grinned. It's okay. The worst of it's over, she said. She pulled out a white handkerchief from her pocket, covering the open box with it. She pulled a small wooden pencil out of her pocket as well, then used it to smash the bugs through the handkerchief with a disgusting crackling noise and green liquid that soaked the cloth. Morgana spoke casually, enjoying this. Well, that actually might be the worst part. The smell, I mean. What? Olivia asked, grossed out when the odor hit her like a tangible cloud. She tried to remain stoic to not give Morgana the satisfaction of a reaction, but she had to cover her mouth and nose with her sleeve. Morgana did smile, making a meal out of Olivia's discomfort. Morgana held the green-smeared handkerchief up to Grandpa Shook's nose. Though he was unconscious and his eyes were closed, he turned green, like a person who was about to be sick. His body shuddered and spasmed forward. Morgana kept the cloth held to his nose. Olivia grew worried and felt like she should make Morgana stop, when suddenly Grandpa Shook sneezed several times in a row. Olivia caught sight of what covered the handkerchief and felt like she was going to be sick herself. It was coated in wriggly white larvae and clutches of mucousy eggs. "Wow, so many," Morgana said, pleased, as she wrapped the handkerchief up in a ball and shoved it into the box. She closed it. "This woman is sick. She's a damn sicko," Olivia thought internally, barely keeping it together. Morgana sighed, satisfied. "He's all cured now." "What was that?" Olivia said, more of a statement than a question. "What was all of that?" "The eggs and larvae of the beetle, didn't I tell you? The beetle occupies the human body to build a nest and lay eggs. This is good stuff. That one was working hard in there. If we hadn't extracted the beetle and brood just now, he would have died." At Olivia's horrified face, Morgana looked exasperated. "My bugs aren't lethal. That kind of venom witchcraft is forbidden. I don't do that." "I was more confused because I thought your bugs were robotic." Olivia closed her eyes, trying to will away the memory of what she had seen. Morgana nodded, understanding. "Ah, I see. If you want to control someone's mind, you have to turn to the forbidden venom witchcraft, which is all organic." Olivia rubbed her temple, trying to process. "And this forbidden venom witchcraft can kill people?" "Oh, yes," Morgana said ominously, watching Grandpa Shook take his raspy breaths. "Forbidden venom witchcraft can destroy people completely. And what a miserable way to go, huh?" Olivia gulped. This was what they were up against? Olivia was shocked when she heard what Morgana told her about venom witchcraft being lethal in the worst way. About these disgusting bugs being lethal. She knew after what she'd seen with Lulu and Grandpa Shook that this venom witchcraft was dangerous. But she didn't know it was sinister enough to completely destroy someone's body. And in such a nightmarish way, she thought internally, remembering with a shudder the beetle, larva, and eggs that all came out of Grandpa Shook's nose. Yeah, that poor guy would have been eaten from the inside out. I guess that's the way some people make new kinds of venom witchcraft and breed new dangerous bugs. But, Morgana continued thoughtfully, not at all bothered by what she was discussing. Things like that are only pieced together from discussions in very old books, as far as I have heard. So the things I've read about the human body getting destroyed by parasitic bugs could just be legends. You know those weird medieval guys and their exaggerations? Olivia nodded weakly, wondering how Morgana didn't have a visceral reaction to this horrible prospect. Morgana smiled, practically seeing Olivia's stomach turn. Morgana added, "After all, some of those same books mention that the bugs could destroy a human soul and leave the body intact, ruining their chances to be reborn. We know nowadays there are no souls and there's no God, obviously," Morgana said blithely. Olivia silently wondered about that. In her past life, she would have agreed that the idea of having a soul seemed like a fairy tale. But now here she was, reliving her life as her 17-year-old self after being killed. I don't know if it means I have a soul or what, she thought, but I don't want to get close enough to one of those bugs to find out. Morgana continued, unaware of Olivia's internal debate. I'm an expert in venom witchcraft, but I studied with one of the sects that has a conscience. We don't deal with breeding bugs inside human bodies or that other darker stuff. That's different from what we do. Yeah, you're so right. That's totally different, Olivia said sarcastically. Yep, Morgana agreed, Olivia's sarcasm going right over her head. So now that you've seen what they're up to, do you want to help me find this evil person who's calling themselves the Venom King? We'd be doing, good people shit. Olivia was not excited about the idea of spending any more time with Morgana and her vile insects. I have a pretty full plate as it is. I don't have any extra time to help you. At least, not anytime soon. Morgana heaved a huge sigh, surprising Olivia. But I need your help to find him. Fine, if you're gonna make me. I'll help you solve your problems first. And after that, you help me. That's the new plan. Good deal. You help me? Olivia played up how incredulous she felt. You're a bug wizard or something. How can you help me? I practice venom witchcraft, and you know that. Don't look down on people. Morgana crossed her arms. Your plate is so full, but you're going to turn down help? I'm dangerous. I'm trained. Yeah, dangerous to yourself, maybe, Olivia joked. I'm very dangerous, Morgana insisted. Then, how about this? Olivia pretended to think carefully. If you really want to work together, we can. Yes, Morgana blurted. But, Olivia said, pulling Morgana's focus back to her. We can work together, but first let's start you on a probationary period where I make the decisions and you can learn from me. I'm thinking 5 years. 5 years? That's so long, Morgana cried upset. 5 years is too long. I think you should examine your standards, Olivia drawled, enjoying toying with Morgana's immaturity. The venom god annihilated your whole family. You want revenge. You only get one shot at this. Do you think you'll get the result you want if you just run right at him now? Even after 5 years, will you be good enough to beat him? If you waited 10 years, we couldn't even be sure you'd beat him. You're all action and no planning. That's why I'm looking down on you. Morgana took this in, and Olivia was actually impressed with how much this seemed to resonate with her. Maybe Morgana wasn't too immature to be helped after all. After a beat of reflecting in silence, Morgana shook her head. No, 5 years is still too long. You can't wait 5 years for revenge? Olivia felt disappointed. Then give me a number. What is the amount of time you'd be willing to wait and plan to take this guy on? Morgana thought for a beat, then a sly smile crept across her face. 1 year, Morgana declared defiant. You're not a serious person. Olivia turned to walk away from Morgana. Goodbye. No, don't go. Morgana grabbed Olivia by the wrist, stopping her. I'm a serious person. I just really thought that would be enough time. Try again, Olivia said impatiently. Morgana debated her answer. Even as it came out of her mouth, she winced, like she knew Olivia wasn't going to like it. If not 1 year, then 2 years? Let go of my wrist. Olivia used her free hand to pat Morgana's hand impatiently. 3 years, but that's it. I couldn't possibly wait a second longer than that. Morgana countered, begging as she released Olivia's wrist. I promise I'll listen to everything you say for 3 years. You call all the shots and I'll learn from you. Olivia smiled at this but tried to hide it. All right then. She nodded and stretched out her hand for a handshake, making a show of doing so begrudgingly. I look forward to working with you for 3 years. Morgana grabbed Olivia's hand and shook it excitedly, as though the more vigorously she did that, the more she was ensuring that Olivia couldn't take it back. Yes, I look forward to doing business with you too. Olivia smiled and rolled her eyes. Morgana would definitely be a handful, but Olivia knew her skills would also be very useful. On the other side of the door, Brent heard all of this and facepalmed. He really wished his younger sister would be more careful before getting taken in by somebody as smart as Olivia, trusting everything she says and diving into something crazy like a 3-year agreement in which she wouldn't make any decisions for herself. He wondered if Olivia had had her eye on Morgana from the moment she met her, picking her out as a useful, ruthless subordinate who she could easily manipulate. Since he was a bit older and had always been wiser, Brent could hear how Olivia had made Morgana feel like this arrangement was her idea. Olivia made Morgana think that this was something that she wanted more than Olivia did. Olivia deliberately played a cat-and-mouse game, pretending to be reluctant. Olivia said 5 years, then Morgana excitedly agreed to 3 years. Brent guessed that Olivia probably wanted 3 years from the start, He knew Olivia was smart, but he wished that Morgana had been on guard for Olivia's manipulation. Brent thought about his little sister's impulsiveness, her recklessness. Morgana didn't know what was good for her, and sooner or later, these traits of hers would get her killed, the way they had lost the rest of their family. Brent rested his head back against the wall. He realized that with Morgana under Olivia's wing, maybe there was an upside. Olivia's cunning could hopefully curtail Morgana's recklessness somewhat. Olivia might even be looking out for Morgana. After all, Olivia was manipulative, but she wasn't evil. Brent trusted Chris's judge of character, and Chris trusted Olivia. Shaking his head, Brent crept silently out of the hallway. He found Chris and Sven in the courtyard and prepared to leave the Jones estate. Later, after discussing some cursory plans for their next 3 years, Morgana and Olivia emerged from the room as medical workers arrived. They had been called to take Grandpa Shook, still unconscious, away in an ambulance. It was smart to get him traditional medical care after the trauma of his venom witchcraft infestation. Olivia found Chris and Sven, but Morgana was confused about why she couldn't find Brent. "Chris," Morgana asked, "where's my brother?" "He had us take him to the airport," Chris said, his composed expression not betraying whether he knew that Morgana was in the dark about this or not. "He got on an international flight. He left London." "What?" Morgana said, baffled. "He didn't say anything about leaving." "Yeah," Chris replied, feeling awkward. "It was a while ago now. I don't know, This is awesome," Morgana exclaimed, interrupting Chris. She couldn't help but feel cheer. "I'm free now. He's so annoying, always in my ear all day long about how I want to do things I'm not allowed to do. He's worse than an old lady. It's been so bad that hearing him say my name, physically hurts me now. Oh man, I can't wait to get started on all the things." Olivia cleared her throat pointedly, giving Morgana a look. Isn't it a little early for you to be celebrating?" When Morgana heard this, she immediately drooped down, looking literally deflated. The smile on her face collapsed too. "Oh, right," she said. "How could I forget?" Morgana thought internally. "I've signed away my soul to this she-devil who won't let me do anything fun. What was I thinking?" Sven watched out the window at the ambulance disappear. "The ambulance is leaving with Grandpa Shook," he notified everyone. "How was he doing before they took him?" "Oh, he's fine." Morgana waved her hand, annoyed at being asked to focus on something that wasn't her personal problem. "The bug, larva, and eggs have been removed. He'll be good as new after recuperating in the hospital for a while." "I'm sorry?" Sven said, turning white. "Did you say the bug, larva, and eggs have been removed?" He suppressed a gag. "There's now the matter of the other old bastard who does deserve to die," Morgana said to Olivia, tenting her fingers. "No one will mourn him, and no one can stop us." "He can't die yet." Olivia was already exasperated. "And now I think our focus should be why we haven't had any repercussions to our rescue missions. Not a peep from Pandora, but we took Steve, Robbie, and Grandpa Shook from her? That doesn't make sense. Nothing from Thorns either?" Olivia wasn't typically one to think she had premonitions, but she had a bad feeling coming over her. A feeling like something terrible was about to happen. Olivia's phone buzzed, interrupting her thoughts. Olivia saw Wendy's name on her phone screen and smiled. She did not go back for the whole night, and Wendy was probably worrying about her. Olivia picked up. "Hey, Wendy, don't worry, I'll be back soon. Are you still bringing me lunch at noon?" "This is a little difficult," said the voice on the other end of the line. It was not Wendy. Olivia's face dropped. "Pandora?" "Miss Johnson, good morning," Pandora said, her syrupy sweet voice sounding like she was smiling. Olivia was stunned, but felt a growing panic. "Why do you have Wendy's phone? Is she all right?" Pandora, pleased with herself, was clearly eating this up. "Because I used your name to invite Miss Wendy over as a guest. I also brought back 2 of the disappointing descendants of our Shook family. I really need to thank you, Olivia, for taking care of them the last few days. So kind of you." "You are welcome," Olivia shot back, trying to sound calm and in control. though on the inside she was anything but. You should know Wendy's identity and why this is a very bad idea for you to do. Oh, Miss Johnson, rest assured that I will not make things too difficult for Chef Rory Chang's descendant. I merely invited her to come to my home as a guest. It's just that the people in the Shook family still have to follow Shook family rules. Olivia turned pointedly to Chris, making sure he heard what she was saying. So you abducted Steve and Robbie from someone else's home? You abducted my husband away from his home? That's a fair trade, I would say, honey. Olivia could tell that on the other end of the phone, Pandora had an evil smile. She has them, Olivia thought frantically. She could kill all of them in an instant. How can I save them now? What kind of game are you playing, Pandora? Olivia's voice was low and steady, but somehow it sounded even more threatening. I'm not playing any games. I'm doing what's fair since you've taken my husband from me. I want him back. It's fairly simple, Pandora said matter-of-factly. Just choose a meeting place and we can make a fair trade. Olivia took a few moments to think. Pandora wants to trade Wendy for Grandpa Shook. Doesn't she know it's going to cost her more than that? Olivia cleared her throat. I want Wendy and your stepsons, Steve and Robbie Shook. All three of them without so much as a paper cut. Got it? Miss Johnson, don't you think that's a bit greedy? Pandora protested. You're proposing I give you 3 of my chips in exchange for just 1 of yours? That is a rather bold suggestion. What kind of negotiation is that? A smart one, Olivia smiled. You and I both know how valuable he is to you. If he isn't under your control, and you don't get a will that says what you want, you're done. When that time comes, you won't be inheriting a single cent from the Shook family, and you'll be facing prison time on top of it. Haven't you considered that I might do something drastic? Pandora threatened. I have your friends. If you make me feel too threatened, I might get desperate, and who knows what I'll do. I'm not afraid to take them down with me. I have considered it, actually. I also know you're much too smart to pull a stupid move like that. What good would it do to you? I'm supposed to believe that you'd be willing to give up your chance at inheriting the Shook family property and everything that goes with it, and choose instead to die with 3 people who mean nothing to you? Just to stick it to me? I don't think so. Pandora was stunned into silence. After a pause, she finally spoke. Meet me at my house in 12 hours, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, she said disappointedly. She knew Olivia had her beat. Okay, that might be all you wanted to say to me, but I have more to say to you, Olivia said coldly. Using my name to lure Wendy to you and snatching Steve and Robbie Shook as well? You have made a grave mistake. I promise you that. Olivia sounded murderous. Pandora said nothing. She knew from the sound of Olivia's voice that she had poked the wrong bear. You might say nothing, but I know you're there, and that you hear me loud and clear, Olivia said, slow and menacing. When this is over, you are going to pay dearly. After everything you've done, what awaits you will be far worse than death. You have no idea what you're talking about or who you're dealing with, Pandora answered coldly. You have no right to pass judgment on me and the things I've done. I'll see you in 12 hours. Pandora immediately hung up. Olivia heard the telltale beeping from the other end of the line and let out a long sigh to control the rage that roiled inside her. We were so close to having everyone back to being safe and sound, then this happened again. Olivia stared out into the distance. Her eyes went cold as her killer instincts took over. She felt the boiling rage turn to an almost peaceful calm that was deadly. You should have never dragged Wendy into this in order to threaten me. What was all of that? Morgana blinked, sitting up. It's the middle of the night. Go get some sleep, Olivia urged. Morgana yawned and nodded. I am pretty tired. Okay. She mumbled and stretched for a moment before slowly heading back to her room. I've been working hard all night. Don't stay up too long. Morgana called back to the other sleepily before disappearing around the corner. Chris looked at Olivia's exhausted face and he felt a pang of guilt. "It is really late, Olivia. You should get some sleep too," he said gently. "No, I'm fine." Olivia shook her head. "There is no way I'm sleeping while Wendy and Steve are being held hostage." She turned to Sven. "Sven, what have we got?" "I can't find anything." Sven shook his head in frustration. "Our spies planted inside the Shook family house are saying that Wendy, Steve, and Robbie aren't there." "What about the other properties owned by the Shook family? We should check every building they could possibly be in," Olivia insisted. "Everyone is on it as we speak," Sven replied. "There's nothing more that you can personally do or help with right now, my friend. You really should go eat something and sleep for a while." "I'm fine," Olivia argued, but as soon as she said it, her words were punctuated with a loud grumble from her stomach. "I don't feel hungry at all, but I haven't actually eaten anything in ages." "We already have the hostage exchange meeting set with Pandora. She won't do anything to hurt them. You can rest for now knowing they're safe," Chris added reassuringly. "The best thing you can do for Wendy, Steve, and Robbie now is to take care of yourself, so you can give 100% to saving them tomorrow." "I guess you're right," Olivia sighed and nodded in agreement. She had already weighed the options in her mind. If I go after Pandora right now, it'll blow up the exchange. Other than waiting up and watching Sven get non-updates on his phone, there's really nothing else I can do that would be helpful. For the first time, Olivia felt somewhat helpless, and it gnawed at her. She had felt it once before when she could only wait for Chris to rescue her. It made her frustrated and angry to be unable to take action right then and there. This would be so much better if I was running my own powerful operation. No one could tell me to sit things out. Olivia resented feeling powerless. It was something she hated to remember from her old life. Her powers were incredibly useful, but they weren't enough to take on bigger threats like this alone. This is why it's good to have Morgana under my command. She's a loose cannon, but it's wiser to keep her close. I'll go with you back to your room to rest, and we can have the kitchen send some food there in a little bit. What do you feel like eating?" Chris asked. "I don't really have an appetite for anything in particular right now," Olivia groaned. "Seeing those disgusting bugs really put me off the idea of wanting to eat. The thought of any food doesn't sound appealing at all." "Well, you've got to keep your energy up with something," Chris insisted. "I guess I'll take some toast or porridge. Anything that's not too heavy and will be easy on my stomach while I'm not feeling the best," Olivia suggested. "Good enough," Chris said and turned to Sven. "You've got this under control?" "Aye, aye, Captain," Sven saluted to Chris. Olivia rose to her feet and really felt the lateness of the hour. "I guess it will be a good idea to get some rest," she thought. She ambled away to her room. After Chris saw Olivia head back to the courtyard house, he instructed the servants to send some porridge, toast, and a bit of plain scrambled egg to Olivia's room. With the food situation taken care of, Chris headed to Olivia's room too. When Chris entered, he saw that she had already taken off her coat and sat by the bed untying the shoelaces on her shoes. They were leather boots lined with warm velvet on the inside, and Chris thought they made her look even more cozy at that moment. "These are great boots, but the shoelaces are a giant pain," Olivia groaned as she struggled to go faster. "Here, let me help," Chris offered. He kneeled down in front of Olivia and started untying her shoelaces. She leaned back on her hands and watched him concentrate on her feet. The sight warmed her. "I don't think anyone has untied my shoes since I was a little kid. It's kind of nice, especially when it's Chris doing it." "There we go," Chris said triumphantly as he pulled off Olivia's boots. "Thank you. I probably would have just given up and slept with them on," Olivia chuckled. "Happy to help you and your feet," Chris smiled. Suddenly, he got a mischievous look in his eye and reached out to tickle the bottom of Olivia's foot. "Hey, do not! I'm very ticklish there!" Olivia laughed and warned as she pulled her feet up onto the bed and safely tucked them under her. Okay, it was too good to pass up. I'm done. I promise." Chris lifted the blanket for Olivia to get under the covers. "I'll tuck you in." That's very sweet, thank you. Olivia nodded and slipped under the covers. Chris tucked the top blanket up around Olivia's shoulders. Good night, Olivia. Olivia looked at Chris and hesitated for a moment. What's wrong? Chris asked. Did we forget something? No, it's nothing. Olivia shook her head. The truth in her heart was she didn't want Chris to leave. I don't care what it is, just tell me and I'll get whatever you need. Chris insisted. Olivia looked into Chris's eyes and saw how badly he wanted to make the world even just a tiny bit better for her. Normally, she would make some excuse to wave Chris off because the idea of accepting that kind of loving gesture scared her. She had been hurt so badly in the past and it nearly cost her everything. She was starting to trust that Chris was different, though. She remembered what she decided after talking with Wendy's mom about relationships. If I want something real, I have to be vulnerable. I trusted too easily in my old life, and I was foolish and weak. But doing the opposite and trusting no one isn't strong. It's just being afraid. Knowing who to trust and then really trusting them, that's brave and powerful. Olivia steeled herself. Today was so crazy, and I'm feeling so powerless and unable to do anything to help right now. I think I just want some comfort. Oh, that's very understandable. You did have a harrowing day. Chris agreed. What can I do? I don't know, maybe just hold me or something? Olivia felt her cheeks flush as she asked for what she wanted. Please don't make me spell it out anymore, she cringed. Chris's face lit up. That I can do very easily. He smiled. Chris quickly took his coat off and slipped out of his shoes. He eyed the blankets tucked around Olivia and carefully reached for them. Is it okay if I... Yes, get in here. Olivia waved him in and lifted the blankets so he could join her. Chris crawled in beside Olivia under the blankets. She felt the warmth from his arms as he wrapped them around her, and she snuggled into his chest with her head nestled under his chin. A warm, relaxed feeling spread from the top of her head down through the rest of her body, all the way to her toes. Her breathing matched his, and the tension floated out of her body with every exhale. Today really scared me too, Chris said softly. It easily could have been you that got infected with the horrible bug instead of Lulu. I don't know what I would have done. Olivia felt Chris's arm ever so subtly tighten around her. She patted his chest comfortingly with her hand. I know, but you and Sven were right, we're safe now, she said. Her voice was low and sleepy. Yeah, Chris nodded. He felt Olivia's small sock-covered feet timidly rest on top of his before settling there. The fact that she wasn't squirming away from ticklish now made him smile. How's that? Chris murmured into her hair after a few more minutes. Much better. Olivia sighed, sleepy. I can't remember the last time I felt this relaxed, this safe. Good, because if it wasn't working, I was going to have to call Sven in for more ideas. Chris joked. Oh yeah, because we both know Sven would love to see this. Olivia chuckled. What's there to see? Just a guy holding a girl who had a hard day so she can fall asleep. I would do the same thing for him if he asked. Chris shrugged innocently. He reached up with one hand and gently stroked Olivia's hair. Would you do that too? Olivia asked playfully, her eyes still closed and totally at peace. Sure, well, no, probably not, Chris admitted. He moved his hand to gently stroke her cheek. Because that's special just for you, he whispered. Olivia's heart skipped a beat. Her eyelids felt heavy as she opened them and tilted her face up to find Chris's lips, when suddenly she heard a firm knock on the door. Adrenaline surged through Olivia before she could even think. She shoved Chris out of the bed and onto the floor. Ow! Chris protested in shock just as a maid came in with a tray of porridge, toast, and eggs. Olivia felt horrible for shoving him out of the bed like that. We were finally having such a nice moment, and of course I panicked. What would they think if they saw us? Hello, Miss Johnson and Mr. Chris. The servant blinked in surprise. She took in Olivia sitting on the bed, and Chris looking very confused and grouchy on the floor. Thank you, that's all, Chris said grumpy. Are you sure you're all right, sir? I thought I heard a heavy thud, like a fall. The servant asked, concerned. Chris's face flushed. "Yes, we're fine. You may go, please," Chris urged. He felt hot and frustrated. Once again, just when we're finally about to have a nice moment, someone walks right in. Will we ever have a moment to ourselves? "I said that will be all, thank you." Chris cleared his throat pointedly at the maid who remained rooted where she set Olivia's food down. He cursed himself for not remembering to lock the door. They had been so close to having such a nice moment only to be thwarted again. How many times do we have to get walked in on before I learn my lesson? "Very well." The maid snapped out of her scandalized daze and nodded. She turned and quickly left the room, shaking her head. Olivia heard the maid's alarmed thoughts drift out with her. What is the young Mr. Jones up to now with that girl? If they're not careful, they could wind up in deep trouble. What does Mr. Charles Jones think of this behavior, I wonder? Boys and girls ought not to be alone in rooms together all night, especially within respectable families in society. I hope I'm mistaken, but why was Chris on the floor? Olivia blushed at the maid's silent outrage. Even though they had been completely innocent, Olivia knew in her heart that the way she enjoyed Chris holding her was much more intimate and exciting than she would admit. She remembered a time when it was impossible to imagine getting close to him without one of them offending the other, or wondering if any of it was real. She could tell Chris was also embarrassed to be caught, but she hoped he didn't regret any of it. I certainly don't. As soon as the door shut, Chris covered his face to cringe from the awkwardness. He was sure rumors would fly throughout the estate. He wasn't sure if he was more frustrated about being robbed of even a few more seconds with Olivia in his arms, or being caught when they weren't even doing anything actually improper. Most people would likely brush off catching him in a precarious situation with a girl, as typical of young male heirs to prominent estates. But Chris knew all too well that the same could not be said for girls. A rumor about a girl from a prominent family doing anything scandalous with a boy, even her fiancé, could result in much worse repercussions. He knew it wasn't fair, but he took heart in knowing all the maid saw was Olivia in bed where she was supposed to be, while he sat on the floor. Nothing happened, and it's the truth, he reminded himself firmly. Well, there's nothing else we can do about that, Chris sighed. He looked at Olivia. Did you have to shove me onto the floor quite so hard, though? Chris asked teasingly as he rubbed the back of his head. I'm sorry, I knew it would create trouble if anyone saw us, and I panicked. Not that we were doing anything wrong, I just know how people are. Olivia apologized. That's how it is in these well-known families. You get coffee with someone in public and everyone thinks you're starting a family. It's true. Even seeing me on the floor is going to start the rumor mill around here. Chris stood up and brought the tray of food to Olivia. All we can do now is eat. You have some. I'm still not sure if I have it in me to eat yet, Olivia said. Her stomach growled again loudly. Come on, just a few bites. You don't want to faint or anything, Chris insisted. He sniffed the bowl of porridge. Smells pretty good, too. I'll try a spoonful, Olivia sighed. How about some eggs and toast? Chris countered. And I'll get back under the covers with you if you do. Olivia raised her eyebrows. So that's how you're doing this, with bribery. She scoffed, amused. What can I say? It works. Chris shrugged. He was happy and relieved to see that this was a bribe Olivia was still interested in. After the close call that morning, he worried she might not let him anywhere near her bed again, no matter how innocent his intentions were. Olivia tilted her head skeptically. And what if I didn't? Would you be able to resist me and just walk out of here instead? Probably not, Chris admitted. But I'm trying my best. Help me out here. Okay, Olivia relented. She picked up a piece of toast and took a bite. It crunched satisfyingly as she chewed. Great start, Chris encouraged. Olivia picked up a forkful of eggs and made a show of eating it. These aren't so bad, Olivia noted about the eggs. Grand finale, the porridge. Chris gestured at the steaming bowl in front of Olivia. He sat next to her on the bed and put one arm around her. There's a down payment. Olivia rolled her eyes and picked up the spoon. She scooped up some porridge and brought it to her mouth. It tasted light and just sweet enough. She swallowed and took another spoonful, then another. Pretty good, huh? Chris said smugly. Olivia nodded and continued eating until she finished the bowl. It was just the thing to hit the spot. Do you want me to ask them to bring another bowl? Chris asked. It's good that you're eating something. You must be starving. No, that's okay. It was just the right amount. Olivia sat back, satisfied. Have you heard anything else from Sven? Olivia nodded at Chris's phone. Chris shook his head. Not yet. If there's anything to report, Sven will call immediately. Chris moved the empty bowl and tray out of the way and sat down next to Olivia. Now I can hold up my end of the deal while you get some sleep. I would, but it occurred to me while I was eating that if I fall asleep, how do I know you won't leave me behind as soon as you get news from Sven? Olivia asked doubtfully. I already fell for that trick once. I know, I'm sorry. After what happened last night, I wouldn't dare leave you behind again. Chris frowned and reached out to gently touch the side of the scab on Olivia's cheek. I've learned my lesson. I thought it would be safer for you to leave you behind, but I was wrong. I'm not letting anyone hurt you again, and I'm never leaving you alone. That sounds a little extreme, Olivia teased. What if I get sick of you? You won't. Chris grinned. I don't know if you noticed, but I'm pretty great. Olivia laughed. Oh, right, I forgot that part. Well, even so, never unilaterally decide to leave me behind again, even if you think I'll be in danger. It's just never a good idea to keep me in the dark. Okay, I promise I won't. Chris nodded. Can we sleep now? Yes. Olivia lay back down and Chris joined her under the covers. This time she moved onto her side with her back facing him. Chris seamlessly pressed his chest against her back and wrapped an arm snugly over her. Olivia felt her face flush and her pulse quicken. She was grateful he couldn't see her blushing, but her heart was so loud in her ears, she wondered if he couldn't feel it all the way through her back. Without saying anything, Olivia intertwined her fingers with his, and she felt his soft breaths on the back of her head. Good night, Olivia, Chris said softly into her hair. Good night, Chris, Olivia answered, and they closed their eyes. She realized just how tired she was after such a harrowing night. After a few minutes, she felt the familiar warmth from Chris spread over her, and her excited heart slowed to a steady rhythm. Before they knew it, they were fast asleep. When Olivia woke later, it was still dark out. She had been dreaming, but she could not remember any details, just that it had been pleasant. As her eyes adjusted to the dark and her mind became clearer, she realized her and Chris's sleeping position had shifted sometime in the night. She and Chris lay on their sides facing each other. They each had an arm wrapped around each other while her face was pressed against his chest, and their legs were tangled together. Olivia found it surprisingly comfortable and she didn't want to move. But the longer she stayed there and marveled at how close they were, the more she realized she wanted him. Every part of her that touched him felt electric. It was so thrilling she started to feel dizzy. If I stay like this much longer, I might go crazy. Olivia carefully extracted her legs away from Chris's without disturbing him. She tried to shift away and move his arm when she heard Chris stir. She looked up and saw him blinking back at her with a sleepy grin. How long have you been awake? She asked sheepishly. Since my thigh felt your leg moving around. Nice try, Olivia, but you'll have to eat more food if you want the premium bribes. Chris smirked. His voice was still deep and lazy from sleep. Olivia liked hearing it. You caught me. Olivia rolled her eyes and turned over, leaving some space between them. She didn't tell him that his deep, sleepy voice stirred something in her. Pull it together, Olivia, she breathed. You weren't trying to leave me behind, were you? Because that would be too hypocritical. Chris teased and draped an arm over her again. Or were you just having a dream about wrestling? No, you're just very warm, Olivia said and cringed at her own awkwardness. She loved feeling him this close, but she didn't trust herself not to get into a scandalous situation just in time for the next maid to come knocking. Since we're awake, we should check in with Sven. Chris smiled mischievously. Or we stay here at least until the sun gets up. Chris tightened his arms around Olivia. Just like this. He nuzzled his nose into her hair. Olivia was grateful she was already lying down because Chris's moves were making her head spin. I would love that, but we can't. Come on, let's go. Olivia protested half-heartedly. No, Chris whispered in her ear. Do you want to get shoved again? Olivia teased. Or do you want to get caught by the next servant that comes to take our dishes? Chris laughed, but suddenly they both heard a door open down the hall and the sound of footsteps approaching. Someone's coming, Olivia warned. Chris leaped out of the bed and pulled up a chair to sit in. Olivia sat up and hugged the blanket to her chest. They looked at each other wide-eyed, and Olivia shook her head at him, amused. I told you so. It's me. Does everyone have their clothes on? Sven joked through the door. Not me, but come in anyway, Chris answered. He grinned teasingly at Olivia, and she rolled her eyes. You guys, we found them, Sven announced as soon as he burst in through the door. You found them where? Olivia stood up from the bed. The sleep and food had made a big difference. Sven's eyes darted to the buttons on Olivia's shirt, then looked away awkwardly. You, maybe missed one? Sven laughed. Olivia quickly glanced down and saw that her shirt had come undone, making the neckline hang lower than it was supposed to. Her face turned bright red as she quickly grabbed it to fix the button. Really, Sven? You were 12 years old. Tell me, where did you find them? Sorry, they're at 3 Courtyards Hospital, Sven said seriously. 3 Courtyards Hospital in London? Isn't that the same? Olivia wondered out loud. Yes, Sven confirmed. That is the same hospital where Steve's grandfather was taken. Wendy, Steve, Robbie, and their grandfather are all in the same hospital, Olivia thought. It seems convenient, but too convenient. I have a very bad feeling about this. How difficult could it possibly be to find one old man? Pandora snapped. She sat perched on a large leather sofa, impatiently tapping her fingernails on the glass table beside her. It's been an entire day. You can't find one single person? Have we even eliminated any possibilities? A large bodyguard stepped forward hesitantly. Madam, Master Shook is nowhere to be found on any Shook property, and there's no evidence that he's at the Jones family estate, Raven Park, or anywhere else associated with them, he said. The man braced for Pandora's negative reaction. How is that possible? Did he just vanish into thin air? Like some kind of TV special? Pandora shouted as the bodyguard backed away carefully. Pandora chewed her lower lip as she reconsidered her plans. I can't possibly exchange my only leverage with Olivia Johnson in person tomorrow. She is much too cunning, and she has gained the upper hand. I must outsmart her and find out what else she's got up her sleeve. She has already taken Morgana away from me, and I did not see that blow coming. My husband's poison must have been cured. I have to find him as soon as possible if I'm going to salvage any of my efforts. Another henchman cautiously approached Pandora. Madam, unless you've found my husband or have some useful information about Olivia Johnson, get out of my sight. Pandora barked. The henchman closed his mouth and hurried away. Pandora returned to her plotting and waiting. Steve and Robbie Shook are the 2 most valuable pieces in my corner, and they're still mine. Even if my husband on his own turned out to be useless to me in the long run, I still know how to keep playing my cards. Steve is the obvious heir to the Shook family fortune. If I lose him, I really have nothing. Pandora began to pace frantically as her busy mind tried to figure out a plan. If I can hold on to Steve and Robbie, it won't matter if my husband signs the new will that names me the heir to the inheritance. With them under my control, their signatures will be plenty to leave everything to me. I'll have nothing standing in my way, and I will no longer have to answer to anyone. Not Thorns, and not even the mysterious man will be able to hold power over me anymore. Madam! The large bodyguard came running in. Pandora held her head in her hands, completely fed up. Didn't I tell you not to? Pandora hissed. We found him, the bodyguard breathlessly explained. Your husband is in 3 Courtyards Hospital in London. What? Pandora exclaimed in surprise. 3 Courtyards Hospital. Pandora knew it was the very same hospital where she had sent Steve, Robbie, and Wendy. Her plan was to ensure that they were well cared for in the hopes of convincing her husband to cooperate, and ultimately to gain Steve's favor as an insurance plan. I did not expect my husband to be in the very same place I sent the others. Go, now! Pandora stood up suddenly. A large group of assassins quickly rushed to gather weapons and prepare for the job. Then I wish you good luck in advance, a voice sneered. A woman with long, perfectly sleek hair sauntered in and confidently took a seat on the other side of the sofa where Pandora had been sitting. It was Thorns herself, there in person. She smiled sweetly, and Pandora found it unsettling. I mean it, Thorns added while nonchalantly checking her nails. Don't worry, Pandora scoffed. I know you came to show your face here in person as a sign of good faith. We find it's an important best practice. The foundation of a good partnership is being able to trust one another, Thorns explained with a faint smile. Thorns, the Shook family's assets will be mine tomorrow, Pandora said coldly. She still felt suspicious of Thorns and whoever it was she worked for. I'm not ready to sing We Are Family just yet, she thought. I would feel better if you told me why you spared no expense to help me, Pandora said carefully. It was a piece that never quite made sense to her. Friends are supposed to help each other, aren't they? It's the right thing to do? Thorne smiled and added, My boss sympathizes with your situation. I only hope that when he needs help in the future, you will remember his generosity and be quick to return the favor. Of course. Pandora nodded but blinked suspiciously. How much of a favor will I owe exactly? Pandora turned and left the house with her armed men. Thorns watched Pandora leave and her mouth curved into a smile as she reached up to touch her earpiece. London's 3 Courtyards Hospital, she commanded. Roger that, a voice responded. I will be joining in a bit, Thorns instructed. I have a feeling that I'll run into an old friend there. She grinned deviously. Understood, the voice answered. Back at Raven Park, Olivia and Chris prepared to leave. Come on, we have to hurry, Olivia urged Chris. She double-checked that all of the buttons on her shirt were properly fastened in place and pulled on her coat. How long will it take to get to 3 Courtyards Hospital from here? About half an hour, Chris replied. Don't worry, I asked Sven to have a car ready to take everyone. We will be ready to go soon. Okay, good. I'm heading down there. Olivia turned away and hurried out of the room. She walked briskly down the long hallways and down several flights of stairs. Down by the entryway, she found Lulu anxiously pacing back and forth. She looked as pale as her plain cotton uniform, and her hair hung loosely around her face. It made her look more frantic than the serious professional look she usually presented. As if she could feel Olivia's gaze, she looked up and met her eyes. She opened her mouth to say something, then felt too shy and looked away. Miss Johnson, she nodded politely but strained. Do you need something? Olivia asked, searching Lulu's face what might be wrong. Do you need something? Lulu asked defensively. Olivia was used to Lulu's hot and cold behavior by now, and she knew she was just a kid who had been cooped up working for a family that wasn't even hers her whole life. Olivia gave Lulu a lot of leeway for this reason. She could tell she was getting nowhere asking for information out loud, so she quickly checked into Lulu's mind. Why is she analyzing me like that? Lulu thought. Something in her eyes. There's a hint of something sinister. No, thank you, I don't need anything, Olivia said with a shake of her head. You just look like something might be troubling you. I'm sorry, I'm just bad at this. I just wanted to say thank you for, everything, Lulu said awkwardly. She had not experienced a goodbye like this in a long time. Oh, well, there's no need. Is that why you're so antsy, or is it about leaving? Olivia asked gently. Olivia remembered actually being around Lulu's age and how much she wished her new self could have a conversation with her teenager self to set her down a better path. Maybe I can help a different young girl instead, Olivia thought. Lulu, can I ask a different question? Lulu blinked without saying a word, but didn't walk away either. Olivia took that as a sign to continue. Why is a hard-working young girl with her whole life ahead of her stuck here working for the Jones family all day? Olivia asked sincerely. You must have other dreams or goals that don't involve working for them forever, right? Lulu looked at the floor and shrugged. Olivia listened to Lulu's thoughts to get a better read. I've lived at Raven Park for so long. From being brand new and having no confidence in what I was doing, to eventually becoming the head housekeeper of the Jones estate. I've worked so hard to be the best and most useful I could so that I could stay here. Raven Park is the only home I've ever really known. It's where I belong. After so many years, Charles and Chris Jones have felt like my own family. Olivia was almost overwhelmed listening to the girl's frantic, almost pleading thoughts. She continued on. When Chris grew up and started living his own life away from here, I stayed with Charles. I grew up a lot too then. I had to be a reliable, mature, and steady person at a young age. I learned how to hide my emotions and only focus on meeting Charles's needs and the needs of the house. I had to figure out everything by myself. I was just a teenager, and yet I was handling all of the big, important responsibilities for one of the most esteemed houses in the world. As long as I'm here, I'll still see Chris sometimes, even if it's from afar. How am I supposed to just go somewhere else? Olivia understood that Lulu was feeling afraid of the unknown. Even if Lulu wouldn't confide in her, Olivia wanted to steer her in the right direction as much as she could. That's all right, we don't have to talk about it. I remember being... Olivia caught herself, then corrected. I remember having a friend who was older than me, and she gave me some good advice once. She told me to not forget to put myself first, and to think about what I want out of life separate from anybody else. There's so much more to life than whatever little bubble you might find yourself in. You don't have to be anybody's supporting character. You can be the star in your own story. Friends you never even dreamed of could be waiting where you never thought to look. There are so many potential experiences ahead of you. It's hard to imagine, but once you break out and start really living for you, everything can change and you'll be so glad you did it. Olivia took a breath, then added, Sorry, I'm just rambling on and on. That sounds like you have a very mature friend, Lulu said quietly. Is she happy now? Yes, very. Olivia smiled. Well, good. Thank you. Lulu nodded appreciatively. She had to admit Olivia was an impressive person. She understood why Chris liked her so much. Olivia wondered if Lulu would really take her words to heart, but suddenly Chris caught up with her. Took him long enough. Sven's ready, we can go now, Chris said. He looked from Olivia to Lulu and wondered what he may have just walked in on. You're going out? Lulu asked Chris, then looked at Olivia curiously. You should too, Lulu. Try something new for yourself. Charles wouldn't mind, right, Chris? She patted Lulu's shoulder reassuringly. I'm sure that would be fine, Chris agreed. I'll tell him myself. Let's go. Chris and Olivia walked out to the car that waited for them. Lulu watched them go with a blank stare on her face. Take care, she said in an even, quiet voice. These were the words she always said to Chris every time he left Raven Park. It was her small, private way of telling him how much she cared, and she would wait for him to return safely. Chris paused to turn back and look at Lulu. Thanks, I will. You too, Lulu. Olivia looked at Lulu and saw how she looked at Chris. It will be hard now, but someday Lulu will be glad to get away from this place and all its memories. Olivia knew she could listen in to what Lulu was thinking, but she knew the kinder thing to do just then was to stay out of her head. Lulu deserved some privacy at this moment. Olivia and Chris waved goodbye and walked away. Lulu remained emotionless in her expression as she watched Olivia walk away with Chris, the one person she loved more than anyone in the world, and wondered if this was the last time she would ever see him again. Olivia, Chris, and Sven pulled into the entryway of the Three Courtyards Hospital. It was an impressive, tall building that looked fairly sleek and new. A hospital administrator immediately hurried out to greet them. Welcome. We got the heads up about your arrival. They're in the VIP ward on floor 17. The administrator explained. Where's Mr. Shook Sr.? Olivia asked. He is in another VIP ward on the 19th floor. The administrator answered. Thank you, we can find our way from here, Olivia said. The administrator nodded and left them once they were in the lobby. Sven, bring your men to the 17th floor right away. You know what to do, but try not to freak Wendy out. And be careful with Steve and Robbie, they're still recovering, Olivia reminded. I got it, Sven nodded. He knew what Olivia was worried about, but he would be careful, and his guys were under special instruction to be clean and quiet about this operation. Chris, you and I will go to the 19th floor to look for Grandpa Shook, Olivia decided. Okay, Chris agreed. Olivia noticed how different it felt for Chris not to argue with her ideas. He's finally learning, Olivia thought, amused. Sven motioned to about half of his team. You guys follow me. The rest of you follow Olivia and Chris. He nodded to the rest of the group. Before we all split up, remember to be cautious around anyone with the Shook family. And watch out for any other family spies. We don't know how far this goes. Olivia looked at each person in the eye as she spoke. Got it, they nodded. Olivia could hear that some of them were surprised to see her taking charge of the operation like this. It made her laugh a little. Just wait until you see what else I can do. All right, let's go. Olivia nodded to Sven, and he headed with his group in one direction. Olivia's eyes met Chris's, and they wordlessly walked together towards the elevator. Everyone was a different moving piece of the puzzle. Olivia and Chris walked apart from each other inconspicuously. They looked as if they were complete strangers not heading anywhere specific so as not to stand out. But really, they both made their way to the elevators. The rest of their group did the same, but no one would have guessed they were all together. Everyone played their role expertly. Olivia and Chris reached the elevators unnoticed. Olivia hit the button for the 19th floor, while Chris pretended to not know her and blended in as just another stranger in the elevator. Which floor? Olivia asked Chris like he was a stranger. I'm going to 19 too, Chris replied and stared ahead at the doors. Olivia remembered with some amusement how much Chris's acting abilities had frustrated her for so long. He successfully hid his feelings from her, and he was so believable that she was certain he felt nothing for her at all. You really had me fooled, she thought. Now his convincing performance was to her advantage, and she resisted the urge to smile. You're a lot more fun when we're on the same side. When they reached the 19th floor, Olivia spotted a nurse. We're here to see Mr. Shook Sr., Olivia explained. Oh, yes, right this way. The nurse nodded. He motioned for them to follow and led them down a hallway all the way to the VIP ward. They approached a door to a large medical suite, and the nurse was about to open the door, when suddenly Olivia reached out and touched the nurse's hand to stop him. She held a finger up to her lips to signal that he should stay quiet. The nurse froze and looked at her with a stunned, confused expression, but he did as she told him, and he didn't make a sound. He looked to Chris and the others to see if Olivia's actions made any sense to them. Chris shrugged back at the nurse, but made the same gesture as Olivia to be quiet. Chris wasn't sure what Olivia was doing exactly either, but he trusted her instincts. If they needed to wait for something, Olivia probably had a good reason, and they would wait. He knew well enough by now that not listening to Olivia was usually a big mistake he would soon regret. Olivia tuned out the nurse's loud, confused thoughts to better hear the thoughts happening inside the closed room. Chris watched Olivia listen intently outside the door for a few moments more, then saw her mouth curve into a small smile. Whatever Olivia's doing, it's working the way she wanted it to, he concluded. He often wished he could hear what she was thinking, and this was one of those moments. That would be impossible, though. Olivia knew exactly who was on the other side of that door. Satisfied with what she had been listening out for, Olivia reached up and knocked on the door 3 times. At first, they only heard silence. After a few moments, a man's trembling voice called out, Who is it? You have a visitor, Olivia replied brightly. Come in, the man's voice replied. Before we do, Pandora, ask your men to put their guns down. Olivia smiled through the door. That's no way to welcome visitors, is it? Someone could get hurt, and of course you don't want that. Chris frowned as soon as Olivia mentioned Pandora's name. Pandora? Here, how? Inside the hospital room, Pandora waited surrounded by her armed men, who all had their guns pointed right at the door. She pursed her lips in frustration. Olivia is very clever indeed to have figured out this trap. Pandora waved her hand at the men to signal for them to put their guns down. Come in, she said invitingly. I suppose you'll also somehow know that I've done as you asked. How can you be sure? Olivia heard in Pandora's thoughts that her men did in fact put their guns down. She reached out for the door. Chris instinctively reached out to stop her, then thought better of it. He stood in front of Olivia instead and pushed open the door without hesitation. Olivia was somewhat taken aback by Chris's willingness to shield her with his own body, and she smiled in surprise. He had no way of knowing that the much more practical strategy would be for Olivia to be his shield, but the gesture meant a lot to her. Part of her suspected for a long time that whenever Chris insisted he was willing to do anything to protect her, it was likely just the over-the-top promises of a guy with a big crush who just wanted to impress his girlfriend. But Chris is different. He really means it. And there is the proof right in front of me. All I knew in my old life was betrayal. This is a nice change. Chris walked in ahead of Olivia, but she followed close behind. Once they were inside the medical suite, Olivia stood beside him. Pandora, aren't you a little early for the time we agreed to meet? By like a few hours at least? Olivia asked sarcastically. You just couldn't wait for 3 o'clock, I guess. Is there something you're antsy about? If there's something wrong with worrying too much about my husband, then I suppose I'm guilty as charged, Pandora said dramatically and reached out to caress the face of the elderly, frail man in the hospital bed. Is that so? Olivia smirked. How lucky for him to have such a caring wife. I agree. Pandora smiled at Olivia. Olivia looked at Grandpa Shook lying in the hospital bed and saw that he looked nothing like someone who was lovingly cared for. His eyes were wide open and full of fear, as if he was terrified of something in the room they could not see. Grandpa Shook's eyes were so big that Olivia could see how bloodshot the whites were. He looked exhausted and his body was tensed up all over, his lower lip trembling. He moaned from somewhere deep in his throat occasionally, but was unable to speak. Pandora, stop this now. Olivia walked right up to the other side of the bed to stare Pandora down. Why should I stop? Pandora smiled back. No matter how I look at it, I've got nothing to lose. We have his real will with us right now, Olivia said firmly. If you kill him now, you won't get anything. As long as I keep him by my side, I have a way to compel him to write a new will. Pandora grinned, knowing her real meaning. Even without the will, as long as he signs a transfer of the Shook assets to me, I still win again. That's not necessarily true. Olivia shrugged. I have Morgana on my side now, and she won't be helping you with any more puppet poison to control your husband. Your husband might not have been the most talented business manager, but he was still shrewd enough to inherit the Shook family property. He was no fool. Without the puppet poison, he would never hand many generations' worth of wealth and property to an outsider like you. You are out of options, Olivia assured Pandora. She knew she was gambling on the hope that Pandora couldn't rely on the Venom God as another resource. So what? You only have a will, Pandora cackled. I suppose I need to remind you that those documents only go into effect after a person has died. As long as I keep him alive and kicking, everything that's his is still mine, and I'll make the most of every minute. That suits my needs just as well. It's the least he can do for me after giving him all of my best years. Olivia quickly searched Pandora's mind and confirmed what she suspected. There was no trace or inkling about Venom God. All of the instructions and information had come down through Thorns. Pandora had no idea she was just a pawn on their chessboard. So you keep him alive for a few years, maybe even another decade? What about after that? Olivia questioned. Are you that short-sighted? You have a lot more life left, if you play your cards right. You're the short-sighted one, Pandora scoffed. Even a short amount of time is enough for me to get some important moves. I could be secure for a long time with the right investments, don't you worry. Pandora looked from Olivia to Chris and sighed deeply. Do you have any idea how envious I was of you the moment you came in through that door? You have a strong, handsome young man close to your own age who is willing to block bullets for you with his own body. You are one lucky little witch. I hope you know that. I do know it. What's your point? Olivia asked impatiently. Olivia didn't see that Chris's eyes brightened at her words. Well, look at me. Pandora gestured down at the decrepit old man on the bed. This is my husband. Her eyes became fierce. A man who doesn't even want to leave me a single penny after he dies. No one forced you to marry him. You chose that yourself, Olivia said. But put yourself in my shoes, Olivia. Pandora looked straight into Olivia's eyes. If it was you, what would you do? My youth, my life, my body, I've given everything to this man and the entire Shook family. I would never have tried to take advantage of a sick old man in the first place. Olivia frowned. You and I are just different like that. I'm never going to sympathize with what you've done at the expense of innocent people. Oh, that's rich coming from you. Pandora laughed. The daughter of a wealthy, distinguished family says she'd never do anything drastic for money, for stability, for comfort and safety. You have no idea what kind of choices I've had to make. Olivia's brow relaxed. You're right about that, Pandora. I haven't lived your life, and I haven't been faced with the same choices that you have. Olivia recalled the reason she was there in the first place, to save her dear friends from this madwoman. Suddenly, her gaze turned deadly. I haven't had to make the same choices, but I do know that the choice you make in the next few minutes could determine whether you live or die. Listening to Pandora talk about the lack of choices she had in her life, Olivia couldn't help but think back to her previous life. Olivia had often felt that she too had few choices in her last life, and the way things ended had felt wholly unfair on so many levels. But now that she was here, living her life over again, she saw just how many choices had been available to her. She had led herself directly to that destiny. And while she didn't want to blame herself entirely, she now realized that if the old Olivia had just had the inner confidence she needed, she would have never gotten herself into half the situation she had been in. She never would have let Pamela and Mark DeLillo take advantage of her the way they had, but she was still sympathetic to the point Pandora was trying to make. Hindsight was 20/20 after all, and Olivia knew exactly how Pandora felt. Giving up everything for a man who, in the end, completely betrayed you. That alone could drive anyone crazy. But then Olivia remembered what Steve and little Robbie looked like when Sven and Chris had pulled them from that basement. No matter how far down Olivia fell in her previous life, she never dragged others with her. There was still no excuse for what Pandora had done. You know what? I take back what I said earlier. Pandora sneered. You and I could have never been friends. A girl like you, so privileged from such a different class than me, you could never understand what I've been through. Olivia had to stop herself from laughing. Pandora had no idea how untrue that was. If anyone could understand what Pandora was going through, it was Olivia. You're right that we could never be friends. Olivia raised an eyebrow at the woman. But it has nothing to do with the social classes we come from. I could never be friends with someone who treats people the way you do. You make me sick. Pandora smirked deviously at Olivia. Ditto. I could never be friends with someone as weak and spineless as you. Pandora snapped her fingers, and her bodyguards each pulled out a shiny black gun from inside their jackets. It's just too bad because you don't want me to be your enemy. Olivia let out a wry laugh. And how long do you think you can last being mine? Without even having to signal, Olivia heard the sound of Chris Jones cocking his gun behind her, followed by Sven's men doing the same. You're already outnumbered, Pandora. Might as well just give up. Pandora looked around the room at all the men with their guns aimed. Huh. She took a step forward, and Olivia could feel Chris tensing behind her. That's the difference between me and you. You're too tactical, You see fewer men on my side than on yours, and you assume you've already won." Pandora took another step forward, and Olivia's hand twitched, ready to grab her own pistol from her waistband at any moment. "I try my hardest no matter what the odds are. I never lose without giving it my all." Pandora reached over then and picked up her own purse, the barrel of Chris's gun aimed at her the entire time. Pandora reached into the purse and pulled out a small golden pistol. She held it up, smiling at it for a moment, and then she did something that completely caught Olivia off guard. Pandora turned, not toward Olivia or Chris or Sven's men, but toward Old Man Shook. She aimed the gun directly at the old man, who was too out of it to know what was happening. "I've suffered for so long thanks to this man." Pandora swiftly clicked the safety off the tiny pistol. "I'm finally going to be free now." She smiled as she prepared to pull the trigger. "Stop!" Olivia shouted. "You really don't want to do that." Pandora let out a single laugh. "Oh no? And why's that?" Olivia smiled then. "How well did you read your prenup when you married the all-powerful patriarch of the Shook family?" Pandora's face fell then. She turned to look at Olivia, gun still trained on Old Man Shook. "What?" Olivia took out her phone and pulled up a photo of the prenup, with Pandora's signature. "I was able to get a copy of this." Olivia smiled proudly. "It's a long one. I understand why you didn't read it all the way through when you signed it. But if you had, you would see that in case of his death, Mr. Shook planned to leave you absolutely nothing." "That can't be." Pandora took a step closer to inspect the photo on Olivia's phone. "Oh, but it is." Olivia smirked. Pandora stared at Olivia for a moment, completely dumbstruck, and then she let out an animalistic scream, pivoting to direct her pistol at Olivia. Chris was about to make a move, but Olivia put her arm up to stop him. Olivia clenched her jaw slightly. She knew Pandora wouldn't care if she lost a few lives in the pursuit of beating Olivia, but Olivia was hoping to walk away with no collateral damage. "Pandora, think about this logically for a second." "I am thinking logically," Pandora snapped. Olivia held a hand up, trying to calm the room. "It's like we were just talking about, how life is full of choices. You still have a choice now. I know it feels like your back is up against a wall, but this doesn't have to end badly. You can walk away now. We can forget this all happened and no one has to die." Pandora looked at Olivia for a moment, really considering her words. "So you're saying if I tell my men to stand down, you'll just let me leave?" Olivia nodded. "Yes, we can both leave here peacefully." "But I still won't get the money I deserve. I'll lose the quality of life I've grown accustomed to, don't you see?" Pandora tapped a finger to her chin as if trying to make a decision. "Either way, I lose. So I might as well take you out as revenge. After all, the greater the risk, the greater the benefit." Pandora smiled at Olivia like a fox now. Olivia reached into her waistband, quickly drawing her pistol. "Don't do it, Pandora, I'm warning you. Or you'll what, shoot me?" Pandora threw her head back to laugh. "I know girls like you love to act tough, but at the end of the day, you wouldn't hurt a fly." Olivia prickled at this. She had hurt people, lots of people, but they'd all been deserving. She thought back on the myriad of victims she had used her powers on and felt a slight tinge of guilt. But she knew deep in her heart they'd all been deserving. Despite what Pandora did to Robbie and Steve, and despite using Morgana's venom witchcraft to control Steve's grandfather, for some nagging reason, Olivia didn't truly believe that Pandora deserved to die. She felt for the woman and still held out hope that Pandora would do the right thing. "Please, Pandora," Olivia whispered, and for once, she saw the fear in Pandora's eyes. It was like she could see the little girl Pandora once was, alone and afraid, and backed into a corner. Pandora hesitated a moment. A single tear fell from her eye as she began to lower the gun. Olivia felt a wave of relief wash over her. Then out of nowhere, a loud crack sounded, and the hospital window behind Pandora shattered. Olivia had no time to process what was going on before she felt Chris tackle her to the ground. covering her protectively with his body. For a moment, Olivia could hear nothing but a ringing in her ears and the distant beating of her own heart. Then reality flooded back in. She heard screams and shouts as Chris stood, helping her back up to her feet. Olivia tried to understand the scene in front of her. Pandora slumped on the side of Old Man Shook's bed now as he lay eyes closed and bleeding out of a hole in the side of his head. Pandora was clutching at her stomach. She pulled her hand away and Olivia saw the immense amount of blood that was pouring out of the side of her body. "What the hell happened?" one of Pandora's bodyguards shouted as he ran to her side, the other one busy tending to Old Man Shook. "A bullet came through the window. There must be someone on the roof." Chris Jones squinted, trying to look out the window, without making it too easy for himself to become the next target. Olivia ran to Pandora, kneeling at her side. "It's okay, we're in a hospital. We can get you help." Olivia looked over her shoulder at Sven's men, who stood there now in complete shock. "Somebody call a doctor!" she shouted in frustration, then turned back to Pandora. "No, don't," Pandora choked. "It's my time." Olivia couldn't help but begin to tear up. This was not someone she loved, nor even had respect for. But watching her bleed out now touched something in Olivia. Pandora smiled now as she stared off into the middle distance. "I'm done with this life. Perhaps the next will be better, if there is one." "There will be." Olivia squeezed the dying woman's hand. "I promise it." She smiled to herself then, wondering if perhaps Pandora might wake up tomorrow, a teenager again with the opportunity to do this all over. Olivia hoped she would make the right choices next time. As Pandora began to fade, the beeping of Old Man Shook's heart monitor became further and further apart, until it flatlined completely, leaving nothing but the sound of a high-pitched squeal. "Olivia," Chris said gently, kneeling on one knee next to her. Olivia was jolted out of the moment by Chris's voice. She quickly stood, rushing to the broken window. "Olivia, get away from there!" Chris shouted. They didn't know who had made the shot, nor if Pandora had been their target or someone else in the room. Chris didn't want to take any chances. He ran over and pulled Olivia away by her arm, making sure she was out of sight of the assassin. But Olivia had seen all she needed to. There on the rooftop of the building directly adjacent to them, a woman stood wearing all black, holding a sniper rifle, and smiling down at the room she had just destroyed. Olivia could barely make her out, but she recognized her immediately. "Is that?" Olivia said under her breath. "Thorns? What are you saying?" Chris Jones asked frantically, still trying to piece together what had happened here. "I know who that was." Olivia began to make for the door to the hospital room. "I have to go." "Wait, Olivia, wait!" Chris ran after Olivia, grabbing his pistol and signaling for Sven's men to follow. Out in the hallway, Olivia caused quite a ruckus. Although this was a hospital, and the doctors and nurses were used to the sight of blood, they were not so used to girls covered in someone else's blood running through the hallways. But Olivia took no notice of the stares and shouts. She had to get to the roof of the other building before Thorns could leave. Olivia dashed through the building, racing up stairwell after stairwell in order to get there. Finally, she reached the door to the roof, her heart beating out of her chest and her breathing labored and painful from how quickly she had run. She had completely outrun Chris and the other men, but she knew they'd catch up eventually. Right now, all she could worry about was reaching Thorns in time. She took a deep breath, steadying herself, then pushed the door of the roof open and stepped outside. Olivia pushed the door to the hospital roof open and ran out, looking around frantically for the woman she knew had to be Thorns. Suddenly, she heard a loud whirring behind her and felt a tremendous amount of wind. Olivia looked up and saw a helicopter circling just over her head. The helicopter descended slightly, dropping down a rope ladder. Right where the rope ladder had dropped, Olivia spotted the woman in all black. "Hey!" Olivia shouted as she ran towards the figure, but the woman ignored her. stop right there. I know who you are. Olivia screamed over the noise of the helicopter. But either the woman couldn't hear her, or she just didn't care to acknowledge Olivia. Thorns grabbed onto the rope ladder and began to make her way up to the helicopter. Olivia was almost there. If she could just grab onto the ladder, she could face this woman once and for all. As Olivia got closer, the helicopter began to rise. Thorns had been scurrying as quickly as she could to the top of the ladder. But knowing she was safe now from Olivia's grasp, she stopped briefly, looking down at the girl. "Thorns!" Olivia shouted over the noise. "Or should I say, Beatrix Cooper." The woman on the ladder looked down at Olivia and smiled maliciously. Olivia was able to get a good look at her face now. This was indeed Beatrix Cooper, her cousin, and Melanie Cooper's sister, who had made Olivia's existence a living hell in her last life, and had done her best to do the same this time around. "Bye-bye, Olivia," Beatrix cackled. "I'll send you a postcard." With that, Beatrix continued up the ladder until she reached the top. A pair of black-gloved hands reached down and hoisted her into the body of the helicopter. And then they were gone. Olivia stood there, her hair blowing in the wind created by the giant helicopter, unable to move. "I can't believe it," Olivia thought to herself, stunned. This whole time, Thorns was Beatrix Cooper. Up in the helicopter, Beatrix took a moment to catch her breath. One of the men in the helicopter gave her barely a second before filling her in on the news. "Thorns, the master wishes to speak with you." The man handed Beatrix a radio, and she took it tentatively. Beatrix gulped, preparing herself for a swift reprimanding. She did what was necessary, but still, it wouldn't surprise her if the man on the other end demanded she be thrown out of the helicopter immediately. Beatrix pressed the talk button and prepared herself for the worst. "Master, I am sorry to keep you waiting." "What is the status on Shook, Thorns?" A gravely voice barked out at her from the radio. "I'm afraid—" Beatrix looked up at the men in the helicopter, but all of them avoided her gaze now. She steeled herself. "The patriarch of the Shook family has perished. It was a necessary outcome to make sure Pandora didn't screw up plans further." "I already know the old man is dead," the voice shouted into the radio. "Was it you who did it?" Beatrix looked down now, fighting back her fear. "You may punish me however you see fit, sir." She glanced around quickly at the other passengers. She knew she couldn't trust any of them, and she had to think fast if she wanted to survive. "Punish you?" The voice laughed. "I was going to ask you to fulfill another mission for me. You have your eye on the ball. I would never get rid of an agent with such prowess." "Thank you, sir. I'm ready whenever you need me." Beatrix smiled to herself, both flattered that her talent did not go unnoticed, and that she would be spared her life. For today, at least. Does this new mission finally involve the Park family? Beatrix waited, hopefully for his reply. "Not yet," the man answered. "But rest assured, when the time comes, you will be the one to handle the parks. I know you are personally invested, and I will reward you for your service by letting you dismantle them one by one." Beatrix grinned, already imagining all the different ways she could destroy the Park family members, ending, of course, with Olivia. Olivia had stood on the roof for a long while until Chris and the men finally found her. Chris was relieved to see her alive and relatively unscathed. He escorted her back down to the hospital floor, where Robbie and Steve were being watched over by Sven. They filled the boys in on the terrible news about their grandfather, and Steve took it in stride. He knew that with the death of his grandfather, many more responsibilities would fall on his head. Of course, he was sad, but after everything he and Robbie had been through, it was hard to associate his grandfather with anything more than his time locked in a basement. Robbie was taking it much harder. unable to process the idea of death at such a young age. After leaving the hospital, Chris and Olivia returned to his grandfather's house. The days had all blurred together, and Olivia had almost forgotten that they were meant to celebrate the winter holidays Chris had missed with his grandfather that night. It was a tradition in the Jones family. Whenever Chris had not been able to make it home for New Year's or Christmas, or his grandfather had been away for work, the two of them would choose a date in January to celebrate properly. And tonight was that night. It was hard for Olivia to imagine celebrating anything after the last 24 hours, but she knew how important this tradition was to Chris. When they arrived home, they found Chris's grandfather in a bright red, Fair Isle Christmas sweater, looking cheerier than Olivia had ever imagined a Brit could be. Seeing him look so happy, and seeing that happiness mirrored on Chris's face, made the weight that barreled down on Olivia from being even near the Jones manor almost bearable. Seeing how tired Olivia was from her lack of sleep these last few days, Charles Jones agreed that she and Chris should have a moment to wash up and rest before they began their celebrations. Olivia returned to her room and washed up, but when she tried to close her eyes to take a brief catnap, she found herself unable to do so. After tossing and turning for a good 30 minutes, she finally decided to give up and join in on the festivities. She found her way to the parlor, where Charles had asked one of the servants to start a fire, and he and Chris were already busy chatting and drinking mulled wine. "Olivia, dear, come join us." Charles waved Olivia into the room as if she were his granddaughter. She happily took a seat next to Chris's grandfather, while Chris went off to fetch her a mug of mulled wine. "I do hope you'll enjoy our celebration tonight. It's silly, but it's just something I've done for Chris since his mother passed." Charles reached out and patted Olivia's hand with his own. "Thank you for including me. I feel honored." Olivia tried to smile, but it was obvious that she was distracted. Charles wrinkled his brow as he watched her closely. "You know, Christopher told me what had happened." Olivia looked up, surprised. She kept so much of this from her own family. She was surprised Chris was so open with his grandfather. "Life and death are strange bedfellows." Charles smiled warmly at Olivia. "You can't have one without the other. And in the case of this Pandora woman, it seems that perhaps this was the best outcome for her." Olivia nodded. It was a rather dark way of thinking, but then again, hadn't death been the best outcome for her too? Olivia was miserable in her old life. The only thing that had ever brought her joy was knowing that she had the love of her fiancé, Mark DeLillo. But even that turned out to be false. In a very odd way, Olivia was glad that she had the opportunity to be reborn and to do things her way this time around. "Anyway, let's not think about it tonight." Charles raised his mug of hot wine into the air. "Tonight is a party." Chris returned then with the mulled wine, handing it to Olivia. "That's right," Chris agreed with his grandfather, picking up his mug and holding it out. "Cheers." Olivia clinked her cup against Chris's and Charles and smiled, for real this time, as she took a sip of the sweet, warm liquid. She looked up then, having just noticed something. "Where is Lulu?" "I told the girl she could join us, but she wanted to oversee the kitchen as they prepared dinner." Charles shrugged. "Go figure." Olivia pouted as she asked, almost to herself, "Would it be all right if I go try to convince her to join us? She should get the chance to celebrate the holidays too." Charles' eyes wrinkled as he smiled at Olivia. "I think that's a wonderful idea. That girl works too hard. She deserves a break." "I'll go with you," Chris offered, standing and holding out an arm for Olivia to take. Out in the courtyard, Chris and Olivia meandered, chatting and enjoying each other's company after the harrowing last few hours they had had together. "Chris, do you know if Lulu has any friends?" Olivia pondered. Since she had arrived at Jones Manor, she had seen Lulu do almost nothing but work. Not that I can think of." Chris furrowed his brow, trying to remember. "There was a maid we had once. Evangeline. She was pretty young, 19, I think. and I seem to remember the two of them whispering and giggling in the hallway from time to time. Chris sighed, but that was a while ago, and Evangeline left to get married only a few months after she started here. Olivia looked down at the snow, crunching under her feet as she walked. She couldn't imagine how lonely it would be to live in this house with no friends. She understood completely then why Lulu would have fallen in love with Chris. Besides the fact that he was handsome and charming, he was also the only other person close to Lulu's age in her life. Chris was like a friend, a schoolmate, a brother, and a lover all wrapped into one. No wonder it was so difficult for Lulu to see Chris show affection toward Olivia. Just then, Olivia lost her footing, slipping on a patch of ice hidden underneath the layer of snow that had fallen since the last time the walk had been shoveled. She let out a yelp as she flailed her arms, grasping at the air in front of her. Luckily, Chris still had a hold on her. Otherwise, she would have landed right on her bum, possibly hurting herself badly. Chris righted her. Then, seeing she was okay, he began laughing at her clumsiness. "Oh yeah, you think that's funny?" Olivia blushed, embarrassed by her near fall. "I do," Chris teased. Olivia pouted, then got an idea. She let go of Chris's arm, turned around so Chris couldn't see what she was doing, then squatted down, quickly piling snow together. "What are you doing?" Chris craned his neck, trying to see what she was up to. Suddenly, Olivia whirled around, releasing a snowball right at Chris's head. He ducked just in time for it to fly past him, landing softly in the snow behind him. "Oh, you did not just try to throw a snowball at me." Chris looked at her with a playful fire in his eyes. Olivia giggled, then quickly turned back around, preparing another snowball. Chris knew what she was doing this time and immediately squatted down in the snow to do the same. But this time, Olivia was quicker, pelting him right in the back with a snowball. Chris whirled around, throwing his snowball, but Olivia jumped out of the way. Chris stood then. "That's it. I'm gonna get you." Chris began to run towards Olivia, who shrieked playfully, bounding through the snow away from him. She stopped momentarily to gather more snow to make another ball to attack him with, but Chris surprised her, coming up from behind and lifting her into the air. "I got you now." Olivia's laughter echoed through the courtyard as Chris began to nibble on her neck. It was the only light moment they had had after so much darkness, and Olivia felt truly happy for the first time since arriving in London. Little did she know that just yards away, lurking in the shadows, someone was watching them, feeling the exact opposite of happiness.